Well, hi again, everyone. Look who's back. Me. um, Thank you guys for actually visiting my videos, or viewing my videos, I should say. Visiting the channel, at least looking at these videos, and actually engaging with your comments and everything. So thank you very much, okay? I certainly appreciate it. I should say something at this point that needs to be said. Folks, I want you to understand that I'm not here saying that something is wrong with being a Hebrew Israelite, okay? If that's what you feel you need, if that's what you feel you are, I am not here to tell you not to be. The only problem I have, which I have with just about anything else, is, and I'm not saying that all Hebrew Israelites are like this. I certainly don't know all of the various groups. Like I mentioned in one of the earlier videos, the group that I'm most familiar with are the ones that you see on the street corners. I lived in New York City, so I saw them quite a bit. And I've been seeing them down here quite a bit here in this state that I live in right now. About 5 miles east of here. I see them on the street corners on Saturdays. I've seen them in Virginia, and I've seen them in other places. So they're the most identifiable that you see. You see them in their, as one person told me, their sackcloth. And so they stand out. You see them, you hear them, okay? And like I said before, they were down in the Caribbean where I am from, and we do have a few of them. I don't know if we have a congregation down there, but in the Virgin Islands where I'm from, I know you have some there also. So I am not here saying that you shouldn't be. I'm not here debating that you shouldn't be. My only thing is, if any religion, any group decides they're going to do this, I am going to hate on a particular group, because if I hate on that group, if I put that group down, if I disparage that group over there, then that makes me good. That makes me better. One of the things I've learned as I've grown older, and of course in my Christian faith, way back when, I don't want anyone to think that I'm a Christian, mind you, okay? I am so far removed from that. As a matter of fact, like I said before, I'm an atheist. I don't really buy into anybody's religion anyway, okay? But one of the things that, type of life I lived when I was a Christian was, I saw the world in black and white. There were sinners and there were Christians. And then we narrowed it down. Well, there were Christians, but the Catholics weren't Christians, They're like, fake. Oh, those Baptists over there, they wear jewelry and everything. They're not Christians. Oh, well, those people over there drink wine and party and they say they're Christians? No, they're not Christians. Oh, they go to amusement parks and hang around with sinners? That's not Christian. So you broke it down and it got kind of ridiculous after that. Okay? But you always had to kind of set yourself up as, you may not think you're doing it. You may not notice that you're doing it. But it's like, well, they don't have what I have. They're not like me. And because I am this way, that means I have a higher standard of truth. I am more in touch with the divine. I have the right teachings here. They don't. That now is what I would have a problem with. Because again, the older I get, the more mature I get, the things I believed when I was in my early 20s, I'm not believing at this stage in my life. Things I used to believe back then were, this group over here needs to be, whatever, and the gay people in there, that was me. Or it was like, you're a sinner, you're not a Christian like me. I am on my way to heaven, you're on your way to hell. What association should I have with you? But we know that that's not terribly bad. It's bad in its own way, but then we know it can get pretty bad when you start thinking like that. Well, if I think a particular group, I'm disparaging them or whatever, then you're always open to other things, because it can go to the point of, and we black people should know this, it can go to the point of, well, they're not like us, to, well, maybe they're not really humans like us. to maybe they're actually sinister, that it's inherent in them to be sinister, to be wicked, to be evil. And then it goes to the next level. Well, then if we wipe them out, someone comes and push the whole genocide thing, then we're not really killing people, We're killing demons. We're killing animals. We're killing people who should not be here. And we know this happened in the Old Testament, or at least that's the way the Bible narrative goes, which is what I mentioned to people, who are watching this video and who are Hebrew Israelites. You claim that, and you may beat your chest that you're a Hebrew Israelite, but do you, or would you agree with the ancient Israelites, according to the Bible, mind you, exterminating and wiping out a whole group of people known as the Canaanites because they thought they were evil, because their God, because Moses said that they need to be exterminated. Joshua came in and exterminated them, according to the Bible. Okay? So I'm not stopping anyone from doing that. As a matter of fact, believe it or not, there are people who are Christians, and I could see where it benefits them. Some people need that push. It may be something like heaven, where it might be like a bribe. Hey, if you follow these steps, you'll be marching on the streets of gold, and you'll be doing this, and you'll be doing that. Some people need that fear of a place like hell. Hey, if you're a bad person, you're going to go to this place. It's like Santa Claus, be a good guy or a good child, and you'll see some gifts under the tree. And if you don't, well, guess what? You won't get any. So some people need that balance in their lives. Some people, when it comes to religion, they aspire to certain ideals, and those ideals may be very good things. And if it's going to make them a better person, by all means, please. If you're a Hebrew Israelite and it's going to make you a better person, better husband, better father, better brother, better member of society, well, by all means, go through with that. So I am not here debating that like, oh, you Hebrew Israelites need to stop believing all this. I don't. That's not what I'm doing. That's not my intention per se. It just happens to be, I am a type of person, I discuss all types of topics. If you go through this channel, you see me talking about a whole bunch of other things. But as I said before, the Hebrew Israelite, that took up a lot of my time because it just happened to be around, I started a channel, or I was doing a channel right around the time when people were coming to me asking me questions about the Hebrew Israelites. Then of course it sparked up again with this whole Kanye West thing, or Ye, or whatever his name is nowadays. Just happens to be a topic I like to talk about. I love to talk about religion. I'm not a Christian anymore. I spoke about it a lot when I was a Christian, and I still talk about it now. I'm probably not as, when I first came out of it and I was feeling a lot of animosity and anger that I kind of like wasted my life chasing fantasies. I was probably a little bit more upset. I was a little bit more engaged on not social media, the bulletin boards before social media, debating as a non-Christian for the first time after debating as a Christian for years. So this is where I am right now. So I just want to know, I want you guys to know, thank you for tuning in. And I'm not here to get into any, of course I sure can debate with people, but I'm not here to say, I hate you guys, I don't like you guys, and whatever. But another thing that I've had to learn is I've had to learn to be more objective. This is after years of being in Christianity and being subjective. This is what I believe. This is how it goes. The world should revolve around my thoughts and beliefs. So now I'm a little bit more objective. And by being more objective, this means I am more understanding about a lot of things in the world. So I don't look at the world as black and white. White people, I hate all of them. They're this, they're that, or the Jews, oh, they're, I don't get into all of that stuff. Because when you start going down that road, where you start hating groups of people, that can get to be a very slippery slope down the road. And then we look back and we wonder, well, how did this group of people slaughter this entire group of people over here? Oh my goodness, how could they have done something like that? It doesn't take much. You can start planting in people's mind hateful beliefs, inflammatory comments. I don't want to be a part of that. Okay? Anyway, getting back to what I was talking about yesterday, following up, I did say I was going to do it in parts, and today I'm probably not going to spend much time on it, but I know I was talking about the God of the Bible. I was talking about the God of the Bible, but of course the Hebrew Israelites say that's their God. So I'm talking about the God of the Bible, and I'm going to say some things, or have said some things, that may throw Hebrew theology off track. And it's not only Hebrew theology, Hebrew Israelite theology. It's also regular Christian theology, because basically what I was saying yesterday was that the God of the Bible was just another God that over time evolved. I don't mean he evolved. The people who conceived him, the people who conceptualized him, the people who wrote the scriptures around him, basically had him evolving until he became the God of the entire universe. Again, that is not reality, mind you. This is something where someone, religious thinkers, sat down and came up with this concept. Just so happened, the concept persevered, picked up, carried over into Christianity, picked up by a great empire like the Roman Empire, which dominated the whole Mediterranean world. And then that empire broke up, and then of course the European nations formed. Those European nations then eventually spread their Christian, or their interpretation of the Christian faith around the world. And so we today, Christians, even Hebrew Israelites, Rastafarians, Episcopalians, whatever, we are now looking at the end result, or we are the end result in terms of understanding all that evolution that came down through the centuries, through the millennia. So yesterday I was talking about the God of the Bible, and I mentioned the fact that the way the Bible, the early Israelites, they believed that he was just another God, just another tribal God. As a matter of fact, I don't have the scripture in front of me right now. Oh, and I had to point out something. As you see me on here, I'm not doing this on a scholarly basis. I'm not sitting down here with rabbis. I'm not sitting down here with people with a bunch of degrees and whatever, so you can look on and say, well, that person is an authority in something. If you don't notice it by now, I'm a storyteller. And I break it down in a way where I'm telling it in the form of a story. Like I'm sitting down having a conversation with you. I'm not using a bunch of big words. I'm not telling you to go to the source and look up and read a whole bunch of things. You don't have to believe anything I'm saying. But you can pick up some of the things I'm saying, and then you can go ahead and check it for yourself. Okay? So my approach is to storytell. And hopefully it is something that's appealing to you as I tell it in a story format. So anyway, I was saying that the early Israelites believed that their God was just another God amongst many. Because in the very ancient world, and especially that part of the world, there was a belief that there was a pantheon of gods. There was a belief that there was a supreme Father God, and he had sons. Some places, the thought process is that he had 70 sons, which just ironically happens to match the fact that there are 70 nations. These 70 sons were given each a nation to rule over. They were like judges over these nations. Yahweh, according to what we read yesterday, Deuteronomy chapter 32, verses 7 through 9, according to the Revised Standard Version, these nations were divided according to these sons of God, or sons of the Most High. And as the nations were divided and given out, again, Israel fell to, or was allotted to, or given over to Yahweh. You read in the early accounts in the Bible, and you could tell that the early Israelites believed that other gods existed. For example, you can read like Psalm 97 verse 9. It says, "For thou, Lord, art high above the earth. Thou art exalted far above all gods. So there's no denial that there are other gods. It's just that they believed that their God was exalted above all the rest. That was what the Jews, the early Israelites, pushed through. The pushing through of the fact eventually came to the point where it's like, yeah, our God is just another God. Our God is just another God. To our God is better than your God. Our God is better than your God. To, wait a minute, our God rules over all the other gods. To, our God is the only God there is. There are no others. Okay? We can read things like in Exodus 15:11 where it says, who is like unto you, O Lord, among the gods? Who's like you among the gods? They're not saying, at this juncture, they're not saying you're the only God. You're the only God we worship. Well, you're the only God we know of. You're the only God we figure is out there. There are no other gods. They're saying, who is like you? And of course, it would make sense. You're talking about a God or a God that you feel controls your destiny. You have to throw it all the platitudes. Hey, you're the best. You're the most handsome. You're the best out there, man. You're the best I ever had. Oh, tell you what, you're bigger than all the rest of them. You know that kind of thought, Got to stroke the ego, right? Because you didn't want to anger this God because you felt that he controlled your destiny, he controlled your life. He could strike you down. And we live in, these people are living in a world of superstition where diseases were happening and different things were going on. They had no idea. You drop dead when you're young. Okay, God must have struck him dead for something that he did wrong. Then we read other parts like the book of Kings. And the Lord said, Kings chapter 8, verse 23, and the Lord said, Lord God of Israel, there is no God like thee in heaven above or on the earth, who keep thy covenant with thy servants that walk before thee, and blah, blah, blah. Okay? Psalm 86, verse 8 says, there is no one like you, speaking of the Israelite God, among the gods, O Lord, nor are there any works like yours. Again, it's all about stroking the ego. Now, these are people making a declaration. Doesn't make it right. I shouldn't say doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it true. Just because they say that. That's like me going around the place saying, I'm the most handsome man on the face of the earth. I believe it. I'm making the proclamation. But hey, I am nowhere close to anything like that. Nowhere close. I'm probably not even in the top, top 70%. And of course, that's relative. Handsome could mean different things for different people. That's them making a proclamation. Do I have to believe it? No. But people will go around and say, well, do you know that's the word of God? That's God speaking. Because again, we are living in a time when all of this was long gone, fine-tuned, became a final conclusion. So when we read these things, it may throw a monkey wrench into what we believe today because we're believing the finished product. And the finished product is, by the time it was all said and done, the God of Israel is the only true God. There's no other God in the universe. He created the heavens and the earth. End of story. But if we were living back then, and you could have lived over the centuries, over the years as this evolved, and you lived to say 1,000 years, in that 1,000 years you'd have seen where it went from he's just one amongst other gods to he's the only God we should be worshiping to he's better than all the other gods to he's the only God. As a matter of fact, in the book of Habakkuk, which I'm not looking at right now, but again, like I said before, when you hear me mention certain things, you could go ahead and look it up. In the book of Habakkuk, if I'm not mistaken, Habakkuk mentions something, and he says God came from Teman, Teman, and I think that was a place somewhere in the Sinai desert. He says that's where he came from. God is coming from there. And it kind of goes along with something that scholars have already identified. That is, the Israelites came in contact, or came to the belief, or came to the idea, or picked up the deity known as Yahweh on their journey, their sojourn on the way to the promised land of Canaan. I'm thinking about it right now, but somewhere in the wilderness, when Moses ran away from Egypt, running for his life. He ended up in the land of Midian. And they were out there in the desert. The Midianites were, I guess, nomadic, living out in the desert area. And he encountered a priest by the name of Jethro. There is a belief that Jethro was a servant or adhered to, or that Jethro's God was known as Yahweh, a local tribal desert deity. Again, remember, there were gods. The people in that world believed there were gods all around, 70 in total, over the various nations. And it appears that Jethro may have been an adherent in the cult, or in the, because all the gods had their different cults, like this group over here, they're into Baal. This group over here, they're into Marduk. This group over here, they're into Yam. This group over here, they're into Yahweh. And it seems like Yahweh was the God that people, nomadic people, reached out to. Hey, grant me safe journey. Take me through the wilderness. Help me here, help me there. So when the children of Israel, or Moses, when he came up and he ran into Jethro, it looks like he was introduced. Now, please, this is one theory that I've heard, and it does make some sense. He was introduced through to Yahweh. So just like with anything else, you're probably sitting there pondering, thinking on all these wise words you're hearing from some wise old sage talking to you. Before you know it, you start having visions. You're thinking. You're just like Muhammad with Islam. Sometimes you're deep thinking. It used to happen to me. You're so caught up in trying to find purpose and meaning in life, trying to figure things out around you. And you're just in deep thought one day, and before you know it, you start thinking, you're having visions. You start, this brain up here of ours can do some things. But anyway, it seems like that's what happened with Moses, or something happened there. And eventually, next thing we know, he sees a burning bush, and he hears a voice from that burning bush. And now he says the voice told him this. Well, according to what the writer said, because Moses didn't write anything as far as we know. And before you know it, he is talking about Yahweh and bringing this deity to his people in Egypt, known as the Israelites. But now there's another interesting thing that happens. And you have to understand when you read the book of Psalm, and I guess something that I learned a long time ago, but initially when I became a Christian, I thought the books of the Bible kind of like went in order. They actually don't. Some parts they do. Genesis kind of talks about the early earth and the creation of the world, the universe and all that good stuff, and then it sets up the stage for the patriarch of the Hebrew Israelite nation, Abraham. Then you go over into Exodus, and it shows what happened to the children of Abraham, at least his grandchildren and his posterity, and they go to Egypt and so on. But further down along the way, it gets kind of all over the place. So the book of Psalm is a compilation of contemporary psalms at a particular time during the monarchy with David, older psalms that go all the way back to the early history of the Israelite nation, and others were just written by some other people. Well, in that book, there is a particular passage, and I think it's Psalm 82, and it says, God stands in the midst of the gods. Again, notice how the language is written. Depending on which translation you're reading. In the King James Version, the King James Version says, God standeth in the congregation of the mighty. He judgeth amongst the gods. Other translations will translate this a little bit different. It says, God stands in the council of the gods, or he stands in the presence of the gods. Notice again, God is standing in the presence of the gods. He's standing in the assembly of the gods. Again, if he's the only God, what assembly of other gods is he standing in? Now, this is my storytelling part and my interpretation of this. At this juncture, it seems like the Israelite God. Now remember again, this is their thinking. This is not reality. This is just someone with a creative imagination putting this out there. But it seems like at this juncture, Yahweh had ascended to the heights above the other gods. It seems like it's showing because the old God, the old guard, and the old God, the old supreme deity, the Father God, was known as El, E-L. And that name is different in different places. I think in Babylon it was Anu. In other places he may have been called other names. But El is a name that has kind of come down through history. It seems like El was there, but Yahweh basically usurps him, takes over the council. You know what I mean? Like almost like a kind of bloodless coup. Almost like the Father stepping out of the way and saying, you know what? I'm going to give you charge of this. So all of a sudden, it seems as though Yahweh takes that space. And he stands in the council of the gods. So you get the idea that they're gods sitting around a table or sitting at a table. And Yahweh stands up. And you could tell by the way Yahweh then continues to speak, or God, as he's called here, continues to speak. He starts judging the other gods for not doing their job, not doing what they're supposed to do. It seems as though Yahweh is saying, I did it right. Or he's judging by a standard about how he did things in dealing with Israel. But the other gods, they're not doing the right thing. They're corrupt. They're letting the evil people run amok. And he's criticizing them. And he's saying, you guys are not doing what you were supposed to do. And he laid a pronouncement down. So it's almost as if this is the critical juncture where Yahweh makes that leap to supremacy. You guys are not doing what you're supposed to do. You're not judging the nations properly, the nations you're in charge of properly. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to curse you guys. I'm going to take away your immortality, and you're going to die like regular men. I'm going to take away this immortality. What made you gods? What separated you from those humans down there? Because you're not doing what you were supposed to do, and you did not do what you were supposed to do. So I'm going to strip you of that, and you're going to die like regular men. What does that mean? That now leaves Yahweh as the only immortal, above all the rest. He has now went ahead and subjected them, diminished them, taken away their deity. Now there's none like Yahweh, because he rules over all now. There are no other gods. He's vanquished them. So in the stroke of a pen, just like you would do in the real world, where you will kill off all of your competitors, as a lot of kings did, kill their brothers, kill their uncles, whatever. You got rid of all your competition, and now you can reign supreme. So I know when I'm speaking of this type of stuff, I know the Hebrew Israelites who are watching this, you want me to get to Deuteronomy chapter 28. That's the big thing we want you to talk about. If you notice, that's usually the focus. And then the rest of the Bible, at least from what I have experienced, Hebrew Israelites will go ahead and focus on that. That's their argument. And then the rest of the Bible is kind of like cherry-picked to support that argument from Deuteronomy chapter 28. So I'm here speaking about something else that you're not going to really hear Hebrew Israelites talking about, because this is kind of irrelevant to the main point that they want to make, that black people on this side of the world are the true Israelites. And, and by being the true Israelites, them Jews over there, they're fake, they're imposters that's living in Israel, or the Israelis. They're fake and imposters, and, by extension, white people should be shunned. And again, I'm not saying all Hebrew Israelite groups, because I can't speak for all of them, mind you, but those that I was accustomed to, and I used to see, and I used to listen to, and watch them from across the street. These are the type of things that I would hear from them. So, you're not going to hear them discussing this type of stuff that I'm discussing right now. As a matter of fact, I would think that some of the stuff that I'm saying right now, or some of the things that I've brought up over the past 2 days might be like, huh, I never knew that. Probably not going to admit that they never knew this, but it's like, wow, I never looked at it like that before. I never noticed that there. Because again, that's not the focus. The focus is more or less, feel proud, you're black, you're part of God's special group, and God only came for salvation for you, and he only is dealing with you, and he doesn't care about anybody else on the planet except you guys, because you guys are the special snowflakes. and everybody else to be damned with. That there also bothers me because, so that also bothers me. But anyway, I'm going to end this video here. There was a whole lot more that I could have spoken about in terms of the divine counsel and, in the Bible where it shows you different things with God, and you could just see the whole flaw. You could just basically see the hand of humans all over this. It's not anything divine. It didn't start as the divine and came down to man. It started from man and went up to the divine. Because we human beings, we idealize things. And like Superman. Like perfect, strong, can't die. That's what we would all like to be, Supermen. Same exact thing here. We project what we want to see. We wish we can all be perfect. So since we can't be, let's project that perfection onto a deity. We would like to know we can live forever. We know that's not going to happen. So we would go ahead and we project it onto a deity, lives forever. We like to think that we could be all powerful. No, that can't be. Projected onto a deity. And when you do that, well, you write a whole book about it. You write a book. And you drop this perfect, almighty, great, powerful, angry, jealous, loving deity into the story. And intersperse him into the story of your history. Because as some have told me, the Bible is a history book of the Jews, of the Israelites. Sure, there are things in there that are true about what happened with the Jews. The Babylonian exile is actually a truth. There's a real reason why it happened. There are political things, historical things, social things that led to this. But the Bible makes it seem as though the Israelite God manipulated everything, orchestrated everything. He was in on the whole thing. And the bottom line is, it came down to he was punishing his people for not following his laws. It's a very easy thing to do. And like I've mentioned before, and I've mentioned it quite a few times, it happens to this very day. So it's not hard to conceive. I remember when I was a Christian, and I still hear it from Christians today. If something bad happens, as a matter of fact, there's a guy downstairs right now. He's a Rastafarian. Okay? He's from Jamaica. And one day he came into work and he was like, something happened in Jamaica. I think there was some flooding or whatever. He tapped me, he said, boy, here I go on down in Jamaica. Because I've been to Jamaica like 20 times, right? He comes up and he said, boy, so I go down in Jamaica. The place too damn wicked, man. Wicked. Jah bring down, judgment upon them. So in his mind, a rainstorm or hurricane, whatever it was, I think it was flooding. The flooding he sees as a direct result of God being angry with the wickedness in Jamaica. So God just decided, yeah, I'm going to flood that. I'm going to flood that place. That's a whole other argument right there that I might not want to get into and extend this whole thing out. But it's not hard to think. I've heard Christians with that. I used to believe the same exact thing. You sit down here slobbering at the mouth, drooling at the mouth for when judgment comes down on the wicked America. And you're out there preaching, God is going to judge this nation. And so anything that happens, you look at it as a judgment from God. That's God's hand. You're not going to look at it like, well, they're just, the country just hates your country and decide to do something. You're not going to look at it like that. You're going to look at it through a spiritual lens that the hand of God is in on this. Another time, speaking of Jamaica, I think there was a hurricane, I think it was Hurricane Ivan, back in 2005, I think it was 2004, somewhere back there. Ivan came through and hit the island of St. Vincent, I think it was, or Grenada. Wrecked the place. Ivan was on a beeline straight to the island of Jamaica. And I remember back then listening to the radio, because I used to listen to Caribbean radio down here, and I heard people calling in, oh, pray for Jamaica, oh, we pray and whatever. And so they prayed, and people calling in and giving prayers and everything. Well, this is the island of Jamaica. Ivan was going like this, and instead of making it direct, it kind of like turned a little further west, and it kind of like sideswiped Jamaica. Didn't hit it direct. So not much happened there. I think there were a couple of, some flooding and whatever, but nothing much happened there. Next thing I know, I heard people on the radio, oh, God bless Jamaica. Oh, because we pray. And because, see, again, you see, they're thinking that their prayers can manipulate a deity up there. But then, right after that, Ivan goes over and wrecks the Cayman Islands. To the question I ask, are the people in Jamaica more special? Did they pray more than the people in the Cayman Islands? The Cayman Islands, as far as I know back then, didn't have the homicide rate Jamaica had. So why didn't God strike the wicked nation, or the nation that had blood on its hands, But went after a nation, the Cayman Islands, that relatively peaceful, relatively prosperous, and didn't have all the murdering going on that was going on in Jamaica. So you see what happens? It gets very complex when you start interjecting God into reality, when you start interjecting the divine into actual reality. It's one way you can just easily, because you remember what I said in one of my earlier videos. Robert Ingersoll, agnostic, love that guy's work. He said that, and I'm paraphrasing here, he said, I'm going to repeat it again, that whenever we have ignorance, like we have knowledge, ignorance hits. When the ignorance hits, that's where we start filling it in with gods, demons, conspiracy theories, the Jews, the government, white people, those people, you start filling it in, because we want to believe that we want to feel comfortable knowing that we know, or we think we know. Because once we figure we know, there's no need to think about anything anymore. There's no further investigation needed. I've got the answer. They did it. But here's the evidence of it. Well, I don't care. They did it. Oh, they're giving you that evidence because they want to lie to you. They're just distracting you with that over there. Not to say like this hasn't happened before. Okay? These kind of things have happened throughout history. But sometimes we go ahead and we take, because it happened there, then if it happened here at A, then it must have happened at B, C, D, E, F, G. Instead of looking at A on its own merit, B on its own merit, C on its own merit, D on its own merit, we go ahead and just basically say, since it happened there at A, that means it happened all the way through the alphabet. That's where we go with this. So now I'm here kind of like babbling off on other things and so on. But again, my videos tend to be more of a storytelling type. It might not be for everyone, but for those of you who stuck around to watch this video, to watch the entire video, I really appreciate it. I'm going to leave this. Now, what I'm going to eventually get to is I am going to actually discuss Deuteronomy chapter 28. That's the big thing, right? I just came on here and I started talking about a whole bunch of other things. There are people clamoring in the comments section, why don't you discuss Deuteronomy 28? Didn't Deuteronomy 28 say this? Deuteronomy 28. Hey, Deuteronomy 28. Who else is it talking about? Look at all the curses. It fits us to a T. You find out actually it doesn't. There's some things that can intersect, but you'll find out there's spots right there in black and white. Basically tells you otherwise. I'll get to that soon. All right, you guys take care. Thank you for watching this video again. Wasn't expecting to get this long, but I've got to get on back to work. So thank you for your time, okay? Thank you for chiming in. You can like, comment, share. I'm sure this is going around the Hebrew Israelite community, and there are probably people frothing out their mouth to get some words into me, to let me know how lost I am and how confused I am. So one person keeps saying, my problem is my understanding. The things you hear sometimes. All right, you guys take care, okay? Until the next time. Bye.